Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 6/29/25. Um, Before we get into anything about the subject matter, I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda so that we may have this conversation in great understanding, and we ask for malevolent or mischievous type beings to be swept away right now so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. Yeah, this was slightly more impromptu, but this is actually going to be interesting. Joanne wanted to bring up the differences between different, like say, lineage curses and altars, and that type of selection process for the SSP and different programs such as this, or I should say SSPs plural. Um, I'll start it off by saying yes. An altar, and I will define some. We've talked about this with Penny Bradley before when we saw you saw her show with us. We touched on this, and we said we'd follow up with something eventually. So, and this is the eventually. So, way that particular altar type is formed is through a traumatic type of situation, whereas you have some kind of a trauma that is taking place. You created this dissociative personality that then is a alter in the background or essentially helps you through a tough time. Some people thought they've had walk-ins, and this has been the case too. I do want to point out there are walk-ins that come in beings that help you out. But then there are other aspects that are generated within your own subconscious, your own mind, that then also become a different expression within the oversoul at that point, but they're still here. The show Moon Knight is a beautiful example of that. Go watch that. It's from part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Beautiful example where the main character has a mother who is an alcoholic. His name's Mark Spector, but then at that moment he creates a personality called Stephen Grant. He manifests this as a form of protection, emotional security blanket, essentially. And another one forms as a more of a violent one to be able to fight off a bad guy, by which his own original personality can't do it because there's an ethics code involved. The other version didn't have it. So yeah, some people have done this. I've heard of this. I call them instant manifestors when they do stuff like this. It's not common you see it quite to that level. They, of course, superhero, they blow it out of proportion. But the type that I'm talking about, that they also, if you're have been in the SSP, there's always this big quest out there, and I will say this, to get the memories back from the SSP. And I've fallen in this to myself, and is it necessary to on occasion? Absolutely, it's necessary to know what's happened to you and why. But then how do you know that it wasn't that person's mission coming in to begin with to have that, and it's not always your lane to do so, for one. And two, in the SSP, for those that were taken back, were the consciousness extracted, taken to a different body, run parallel lines for 20 years, and then once cycled back. There is a quantum entanglement involved here, where it's the same version of you in the basically the same space-time continuum, and also alternate branch timelines as well. You're still getting, just like with the multiverse, you're still getting and past lives, you're still getting those memories. You're still getting blips of them because it's like a phone receiver coming towards itself. You get the busy signal, or dialing itself to get the busy signal, or it goes if you go towards another phone receiver on the same line. Same difference. You're getting feedback. And with this, that brain in that clone body is decoding and encoding things as a child form, same as you, but encoding, decoding differently than the version of you here. What happens when you start to get those memories back? you go into a catatonic meltdown here. Now, what happened also there during traumatic situations? What did I just say before? Alters were either generated by you or generated by whoever your captor was. And with that said, how do you know that that alter doesn't dictate what you do here?
And again, when you're talking alter and that purpose, I kind of liken it to a soul shard of yourself is birthed, let's just say.
Becomes another expression of
And then
oversoul,
they
yeah.
take that soul shard and put it into another body.
Yes.
So you have to think of, we oftentimes have talked about.
You could have a completely different personality from there, and you try to merge it back here because you are on some quest to do so. And I'm not poo-pooing disclosure. Absolutely not. I'm completely for it. What does it look like here?
But again, and again, is it even necessary? And I say that only because, again, you look at the oversoul. The oversoul allowed for a different version even of itself, this extra soul shard, to be put into another body, to now have a different experience than who birthed it, okay? And what did they do to, again, we always say you are partly who your soul is and partly what body you connect into. So what does that other body even look like?
And it could be totally different looking.
And so what actually has now happened is a totally different creation that your oversoul is choosing to allow to exist, to gain some knowledge and experience from. And does it have to be returned? Now, I believe this is just now me and an opinion, and we'll talk about it, is that obviously if there is interference between the two, that, and again, this other.
Two different vibrations
Or I hate to say this because again, part of the conversation I'd like to know, because I think this happens, is that the knowing about the entanglement, intentionally, captors can create one in order to have that entanglement to interfere with your current life.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's again on that thought process of, well, it needs to be integrated.
And that is true a lot of times. So
but sometimes maybe not. Maybe just needs to, what happened is you need to sever the cord.
And yes, and I have seen though in that community, basically mean averaging the people in that community. Have I seen it pop up a lot of times? Yes. Has it been necessary to be integrated? No. A lot of times within the community, yes, I have seen it, and I have seen it being integrated. But what does that look like when it comes back?
And what if you have birthers? See, this is another form of birthing. So you have the birthers who literally, again, were used to incubate, most likely a hybrid, right? That again, this may not be a hybrid that is born here that you know about, right? That you raised, you could, and it could be a hybrid that could have genetically manipulated, in the womb. But you also hear and understand that people feel they may have been used to birth many. So that's birthing, literally birthing. But this is another form of birthing. This is actually through, these trauma type events that they may like a certain personality style. The shard that's being blown, for their purposes, we want that. And we want a lot of it. And so it seems to me a plausible thing that there may have been people who could blow a shard of a certain personality type, that they would have them blow a shard over and over and over again. And that's my question, because wouldn't it benefit them to keep making more of that?
Yes, and also there's also other types of things you haven't considered as well. There's also sleeper personalities. And we've seen these sleeper agents, sleeper personalities. And this is a type of anti-changer. And if you guys want to see us go through the changer, anti-changer conversation again, we'll be happy to do it. But I will say this one point. If you're accessing this You're accessing something from one of those programs and you don't know the exact details behind this. You just know it's something hidden. Of course, your mind and your soul want to return to a state of wholeness. Absolutely. Even stuff from past lives, lineage, all of it. We'll get to the lineage part in a second. But how do you know that bringing that out isn't going to overwrite like a file on a computer? It may be named the same. It may have the same file heading. But what are you overwriting on your computer when you copy and paste that over? Or drag and copy a file over your computer, then you see, do you wish to overwrite? This is essentially what's going on. A beautiful example of this, William Shatner came up with this years ago. This wasn't Star Trek. This is Tech War. When he wrote Tech War, there was a character by the name of Sam Houston, like the historical character, but this was a woman that was an operative, a government operative. They implanted an alter personality in her so she could do a job along with the main character named Cardigan. What happened was he discovered that that he was told by her handlers, like, if we don't corral her in every 6 hours or 8 hours or so, this other personality will try to overwrite her current one to try to survive. It's actually a living person still. It's her, part of her, but something we've scripted or written. And in the programs, they did write a script for people to create these different personalities. This is a thing, and it rewrites the brainwaves. He gets to her, they extract the other personality. She has to fight it off and define who she is again. She has to basically say, I am this, I am that. Why do you think they do the they? Because they're making you split. So with this, I won't go into that completely. We've already done that. But with this, that's a Nazi spell, by the way. You're an I am, not a they or a we. In this, what happens is, in reality, there are these consciousnesses that, how do you know in some of the community that they weren't meant to bring this out to do just that, to run an op? Now, I'm not saying everybody that's asinine. 1 out of every 1,000 is what I'm trying to say, or even 500. That's in the anti-changer category. Now, I'll switch over to something with Lineage. They choose people for these programs based on both past lives and lineage. Past lives, they have like a chronovisor type of thing where the aliens taught them to turn the person's, and also the genetic memory, turn the amino acids into ones and zeros to view on a computer. And also the frequency, it's like the Vatican's chronovisor, where you could look at points and frequencies in time. Like we said, the Star Trek reference, where the person was going through a catharsis because of the frequency differential. This is what you're dealing with. And if it's a frequency differential that does not match here, how do you know you're not going to fuck yourself up? But the lineage thing, they choose people. If you had a bunch of warrior lifetimes and you have a warrior lineage, what are you? You're a soldier. If you people that are into alchemy, doctorate, any of these things, they chose you for medical. And this means past life mean average would be soul mean average, and they can track this through the temporal frequencies, as well as lineage. What was your lineage? If you had a bunch of doctors, you're a doctor. You had a bunch of healers, you're a healer. And also, if you were involved in, say, the religious community, they chose you for a group they called I nicknamed them the miracle workers, where they would do fake religious stuff all over the place. And sometimes channelers fall under that category. 1 in 1,000 fall under that category. That would be more in the sleeper agent category. And also religious community, that would be like stigmata, bleeding from the eyes, stuff like that. Statues, that's a fake technology area that some hedge betting groups do. This is another form of it, but in human form. So I just wanted to point that out because of the fact that based on lineage, like, say, also, if a family member signed you up to be in the secret space program, it wasn't, some insiders like to say, oh, the aliens told me that they had to give my consent, and some people said, oh, I was excited, so I did this. No, your parents already signed the damn consent form. I want to point that out. With children, it's neither consent nor not consent. It's you've been made to. I want to point this out. We're forced into it, just like with the time travel programs from Montauk to all of them. They noticed children had a better aptitude for it and could withstand all the temporal shit from it. And they couldn't do it with adults as readily. So they chose children. And for the super soldier programs, because they were developing, that's why they choose children for secret space program, because it's a developing brain. That's why they don't clone you in an adult body. That you have to grow up through it so that you adapt when they do the transfer over. This said, that how do you know with that adaptation? How do you know what you're bringing back? You don't know all of the facts. You think you know based on what other people have said. And yes, is there influences in this? Am I favoring the skeptic in this particular argument, even though I get highly aggravated with skeptics? Yes, because you don't know. You're basing it off of what others have said. And yes, are you drawn to the subject because you were there? Yeah, same goes with past lives because it still applies. It's another expression. It's the same thing, everything everywhere all at once, happening everything everywhere all at once. But with this, how do you know? And this applies to past lives, people access Atlantis. There was a lot of shit that happened at the end. You're mirroring. What are you mirroring from over there? It's the same rules, even though it's a forced expression. It follows the same rules of the multiverse. It follows the same rules of expressions within the oversoul that we've said before. This follows all the same rules because it's the same energetic physics of this realm and these sets of timelines. Unless they go off on some divergent tangent somewhere in the multiverse, but that's not what's happening. So, with that said, do you know what you're fully bringing back? Some people, and I'm not trying to denigrate this, and please don't get me wrong. If you are going off on some heroic quest, you're thinking you were just this important soldier, I did all this good back there, I did this, and that. This is a program that is being run. And Penny Bradley and us had this conversation, well, on the Hero program, because meaning, oh, I was this great warrior there. You may have been this in other lifetimes. That's probably where you're getting it from. In a past life, you helped people and you did this and that. Did you do it in the SSP? The chances are quite high that you did not. Could there be this off chance that you did? And I don't doubt really anything. But the odds are not in your favor of having been a heroic or hero type person there. You were in slavery and servitude. This is something that Tony Rodriguez spoke about too. You are in slavery and servitude, and also those that are fascinated with the secret space programs. Not everybody was there. Yes, did they choose a lot of people to go over there because they needed workers? Yeah, so there are a lot more alien abductees than there are SSP. Yes. Is everybody targeted? Yes, from the psionic dampening, and then you go above that and you get what we know as being a targeted individual. Yes. But with this, not everything was secret space program either. You see something cool, go, cool, Star Trek. Yay. No. You have to make it that. You have to make this world that. We want that Star Trek world. We want that Star Wars world. Was it like that in the secret space programs? Absolutely not. And these programs are still going on. I know I diverted, but when it comes to the altars, when it comes to this and lineage curses, they are choosing it based on those rotten tendencies that your lineage had. The Martian Germans especially are guilty of this because they choose some rotten tendencies, usually ones where you are a heartless prick or your lineage was somewhere. They went, wait a minute, we can cultivate this. I even knew somebody that in his SSP time was a medical person, and I was a guard there. And this person was made to look over this alien, and the Martian Germans, or the New Schwabenlanders, more accurately, were making him do this task to see if he still had a heart or not, meaning they didn't want him to have one. And they wanted to see if he would just blow this off and walk away. And to see if an alter personality took, but he kept his soul and heart intact. And this also goes with myself, where there's been those tendencies where I felt this kind of thing ghosting in the background for a very long time. This is something from the SSP period. Also ET abduction type periods as well with some people. This is something you can't ignore it, but at the same time, do you want every aspect of this? Because this is an entanglement we're talking about here. So you access one bit of the information, and I'm not saying you're not welcome to do it. You are completely welcome to look in this, and if it frees you in some way and it balances you out, that's what it was meant to do. But just know this other thing. If you had this other thing, then the chances are quite high that you did. Unless they took you out as just yourself instead of the cloning thing. But even then, they more than likely did something. chances are this other thing comes with it. And this also I noticed happened to me when I got sick with COVID back in 21. That it destabilized, and I'm not saying COVID was this big boogeyman. I'm not up for the psyops shit, just so you know. But it did destabilize something enough to where this became more of an issue with myself, and it had to be looked at because it was causing and has been causing a destabilization in my energy and in my mind. Certain things that would help other people didn't help me. It did the exact opposite. And I came to find out why in some instances, because your mind and your soul are trying to re-enter a state of wholeness and balance. What are some of these other sources that also do the same externally, that you take a medicine or a supplement or even a device or something like that? It's trying to return you to a state of wholeness. What does this look like? These energies aren't differentiating between alter and current you. They see you as you. ETs are this way too. You don't know how many times I've been blamed for stuff from the SSP that I have no freaking memory of. Dream walking. I don't know what any of this other side's doing. I know I've been blamed for a lot, but the reason I bring this up, and the reason I'm saying these things, is because some people not only do work in the dreams, you've heard of that, but in this specific area, you don't know what you're bringing back with you. Just like when I had my near-death experience. When I came back from that, after I got hurt, I got the injuries, it rewired my brain enough to bring back some of the beneficial stuff from there of having the extreme psychic training. I had channeling before, it went into hyperdrive. It was something that was needed to do the work that I needed to come in to do. That was not completely possible pre near-death experience or NDE. So, even though it was project related, it was a beneficial portion of it. But just know, like the whole Sentry in the Void argument, you access one. Here's the flip side of the coin. The character in Marvel Comics, whenever the Sentry accessed the Sentry abilities, the Void automatically came in. This was not a choice. It was a package deal. And that is what I'm trying to say. If you're tapping into this, it's a Sentry in the Void moment. Always. Each and every time I have ever seen it, it has been a Sentry in a Void, and it creeps up on you. And I'm not talking about the real Void, I'm talking about the character. Different story with the character. It's more based on depression, shadow, and emptiness, along with the Sentry and White Knight tendencies. It's the dualism or the yin yang. Anybody that is accessing this, their personality is slowly changing. And what do you think the COVID vaccines was also designed to do? And COVID, change your personality, slow drip over a period of time, so you became more malleable and more accepting of worse and worse shit. And we're consenting to worse and worse shit. There goes your ethics and morals right down the toilet. And just like in Star Trek, when the Borg try to assimilate people in secret via a virus, they said by the time humans figure it out, it's going to be too late. This falls under that category. This is why I bring it up. With this, though, this is something that may even be deciding some of your decision, and you don't even know it. They may even speak a different language. I had an alter once that spoke Russian. Just like Penny talks about hers that speaks German. There was one that somebody I read that theirs spoke a Scandinavian language, another one spoke German, another one spoke a Native American language. I've heard of people that have multiple alters from multiple parts of the multiverse. Yes, can you generate them towards a particular project or a particular need? There's the need, yes, but then can that alter then be put in another body, like you have the Trill in Star Trek, where they take the personality and put it in a different one? Yeah, that's I've seen that happen. And I've seen people meet their doubles from back there from when that one was running on the same timeline as us. I've heard of people. Somebody I know even got a picture of one time. That other version was walking around. But the type I'm talking about is the one that the mind generates to deal with trauma. And also, one point in the SSP, some people, this goes with the hero program. I will say this. I even had what I thought were memories of being on Mars, chopping off heads of Martian Germans and such, like freaking Conan the Barbarian. It didn't happen. That was a version of me trying to cope with what was going on. So I was envisioning fantasy-wise of what I wanted to do. People see that in their own memory. It's out of context. And they think that's what they did. That's what you imagined that you wanted to do. The same goes with, I had a bit of the SSP where this Air Force colonel I will tell you the one thing first, it was a dream of me being an actual, there was a female character, an Inuit woman that gets grabbed by this fish underwater that's telepathing her to go swim below the barrier of the boat. And that had to do with some mer people in Alaska. I actually came to find out that I was in a VR simulation of somebody who actually died, and they had taken the memory engram or energy frequency engram, like a chronovisor, and temporal frequency, and we're showing this in VR as a memory to show people some of the different species that they would be running into while running in the programs. And so they decided to show these jump scare ones every now and again with something grabbing somebody. And this had to do with a real person that died, a ghost that I had to deal with. So people are remembering things, they're remembering stuff out of context, and some of those things could have been dis and misinformation given to you while you were in the program too. And you could have been walking around seeing something being carted around like a reptilian or like an alien or something. I'm not saying aliens weren't there, but I'm saying they played a bunch of stage crafting, hoping your fragmented little warped brain will remember those fragments. And that could have been nothing at all. It could have been stage play and stage crafting. You don't know unless you get all the memories back in sequence. And the danger of that is they can detect that when you get it back in sequence. If you manage to put it back, and if you're meant to do that when you're here, great. Doing that will break some programming out there too. But you don't know that every single one of those people that were in that were ever meant to get any of that back. Some were, some weren't. Are here to do something else that they did there that actually was a benefit. Now, if you're destined, I hate using the word destiny, but if you're destined to get that back, and that's what your path was, great. But if you force it back in someone that was not meant to do that, and you fracture their personality like that, you've committed a crime against that person. So that you're here to wake people up. Look, you're not here to wake anybody up. You're here to wake yourself up. You're here to, if you're on a quest to wake people up, you're not awake. So just know that there isn't really an awake and a sleep. There's just lanes and paths. And anybody's telling you any different, they're selling some. So with this though, with the altars, I also, and I'll add one other thing to this, had a dream. It was sometime this morning. I think it was sometime when the sun came up this morning. We were trying to figure out last night before I went to bed. There's this there was something that, was creating this ill mood in me that happens off and on, more on than off lately. And so, like I said, some supplements, some pills, some things like that had brought this out. And I thought it was just an adverse reaction to the supplements, to things like that. No, it wasn't just that. It was the fact that it was triggering this. I go to sleep, and with the intention, and you can control the dream state this way. You can say, tell the oversoul, hey, I want to pull basically this book or this file out of the file cabinet or out of the library. I want to see what this is. Even if it's a creepy thing. You want the creepy things, especially the creepy things you have to look at in order to fix these things, the shadow work. I go to sleep. 3/4 of the way, so I slept through the entire night up until about 6:30. And just before waking up, uh, this is when this happened. I'm looking at a computer, and I'm looking at a white computer. The color was even important to programs, like a white knight type of situation. I'm seeing an image of Earth with a logo up above, of which it was blurred out. I could not read. That was more likely the name of the program that I was in that I don't remember. And like some people are A-tips, some people are this, some people are that. That was more than likely this. And I'm seeing spaceship logo in there and all this other stuff, kind of like Space Force almost. And I'm looking at this, and it's a login site, like like password login, like typical subscription type of thing, like an entanglement you didn't really ask for, kind of thing. I suppose the oversoul did, but with this, in order to play something out to bring back things to itself. But with this, I'm looking at this, and I'm logging in, and she's giving me a password. I type the password in, doesn't work. Type it in again, doesn't work. Try it again, doesn't work. and I'm getting really super pissed off. And it's not working. And I get very frustrated with computer stuff to begin with because I remember something else from out there. Like a computer that's not obeying commands, that's a mental and verbal command interface. I'm remembering ET, past life, and secret space program type of thing. Uh, and not having that here frustrates the holy bejeebus out of me. But with this, it was the same thing, saying the frustration was not mine. It was saying the frustration was the alters. And what happened was this, and it wouldn't work. And I noticed computers don't always do the same for me, they do for other people. And that's like with life situations where these bits of oppressions and targeting make a mountain out of an anthill. We knew somebody that talked to us at the conference that said that for an hour and a half to 2 hour trip, it took this person from sunup to sunset to get where they were going. And I know there was alien abductions involved in situations like that too. I'm not discounting that. Or something of that nature, like interdimensional travel, things of this nature, like SSP as well. But there's also targeting that goes with this. So some simple task that you do, normal thing, or what normal is throughout for regular people, it becomes an insurmountable task, or you have the series of unfortunate events that go along with this. That's a form of oppression. You all know when you heard me talk about that. It could start out as a stubbed toe to a flat tire to an engine burning to a car exploding, a house burning, building burning, something. It sometimes involves fire a lot, I've noticed. But in this situation, I got severely pissed off and I smashed this computer. It was like this little tiny one about like that. It cracked the screen, but you could still see on it, like in a spider webby fractured type of thing. The fracturing represented the fracturing of the, or the alter fracturing my own brain in this expression. It makes it very difficult to bear even the little thing. This is, folks, this is what you're bringing back with some of these memories. And I'm not saying not look at something that you are meant to look at. Just like dream states were always meant to house the things you needed to correct from past lives, messages from guides, and also rectifying the dark night of the soul. That's what that is. But you don't want to create another dark night of the soul. You don't want to keep recreating it. Now, do I doubt that the oversoul is doing this? No, of course not. But can that oversoul be carrying a constant loop within it to constantly try the thing out over and over again? We've talked about infected oversouls before, where it's linked to a dark expression somewhere in the multiverse and it's constantly playing out something. Yes, and the mouth can mimic this as well. And V2K can mimic these repetitious cycles. You've heard us talk about the wash, rinse, and repeat, and the false incarnation cycle. You've heard about all of these things. Now, and also the dark side of the harmonic convergence. You've heard all of these things. But this one thing with this dream, this told me that this was the fracture point. Whatever I was remembering about the technology being convenient was also entangled with, on the other side of the thread, something traumatic. That involved the altar being created and or something that was either very wrong or some little point I was picking out that was good. I'm not saying everything was extremely horrible, but there may be good things that you can bring back. I knew somebody that brought back computer code from there and currently uses it in their own career. Beautiful. Valiant Thor is hijacking it, but at the same time, to do things in the private sector. But with this, to be more global with the GF interests, but with this, that will be mentioned in a different episode. But this, though, this represented far more than what was being seen, and she was very angry with me in this scenario, and more so than anything here. This was different. This was involving strictly SSP concerns. This is why I bring this up, because on the curse side of the spectrum, I saw in my lineage, this was years ago, when I looked into the ancestry. This involved my father's side of the spectrum. We talked about some of this in the Line episode, where we talk about some lineage curse stuff there. So if you want to go see some stuff on that, go to the episode called The Line. But with this, where I was entering a castle that the German side of my family was involved in. Uh, and these were ancestors I recognized from family photos. And there was one guy in there that they kind of ostracized him as the black sheep. He was in this attached garden to this German little castle mansion, and there was a tree growing in there. And he was in there, and there were three nymphs in there. And you could hear them laughing, and he wanted to be in there, and he was writing poetry and doing all this other stuff in there. I noticed that that was where part of my lineage agreed to have some different types of nymphs curse people on the side of that family. And this turned into stuff for the SSP as well. They explained this, went, wait a minute, there's some added frosting on top of this cake. We'll have our cake and eat it too, kind of thing. So they use that, and they will use these curses to their advantage to create another wash and rinse and repeat. Even if you've resolved this within your lineage, they're going, no, I think we're going to make them think that we haven't resolved this, and they're going to use this as a distraction. And in this instance, I resolved that thing years ago. They've been using this, still trying to make me think I had not. And I absolutely have resolved this by not going the route that even though that person was writing poetry, doing all the good stuff, the other part of the family was Christian. So I didn't go either one, and I've gone separate from both of those and taken the best of both worlds. The complete opposite behavior. That's how you beat lineage curses. You go the opposite, whatever the behavioral trait was. But that said, the SSP saw that with their little chronovisor and went, we can use this. This is how these things are linked. Past lives, lineage curses, lineage, all the different programs, energy, frequency, time, space, all of it. This is what they're able to use and see. And I'm not saying they're omnipotent by any stretch of the imagination, but I am saying what they have been able to accomplish. But this is where I'm at with this. Joanna, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, one thing when you were telling your story before we start talking, because I think it's important that it was included. So when Chris was having his dream last night, one of the other aspects is that when he was trying to put in the password and I was trying to talk to him, he did not understand what I was saying.
Yeah, I did understand what you were saying.
It's a very important thing because because I
It was
think
garbled. It was very
I think what it happens is it may be a moment of confusion that happens to somebody when it, let's just say an altar or whatever we want to call it, when it's beginning to take over. I think it's a point of understanding that some sort of stress or confusion or something, I think, so I think that's an important part. We'll delve into it here in a minute to talk about, because again, part of the reasons that we want to have these conversations actually is all about understanding and healing.
Mhm.
So we don't like to just carte blanche tell all these horror stories.
No.
And a lot of people are telling their stories. It's not like we're against that, because we believe that telling something out loud can begin a healing journey. We only have, again, that caveat that it could be a real memory, it could be an implanted memory.
Yes.
It could be, you know what I mean?
Those are real too, people.
You're
You're
not gonna know the difference.
not gonna know the difference.
So what we want to do is help educate people with and say that you had an experience, okay? We're trying to paint the big picture that were there good times there? Sure. You can get together with a group of people, even if you're all slaves or whatever, and have good moments, okay? That you're trying to make the best of a bad situation. So people can have moments of good memories. What we're trying to say is overall, people were in a slavery type of situation. Their minds were altered. Personalities were chosen that were beneficial for whatever they were being used for. And so this big picture of beautiful, grandiose, it is not really it's not going to really be, if you're believing that, it's probably more imprinted memory than a real one, but you're not going to know the difference, okay? And but the fact is that if there is some sort of interference coming your way as you sit in this current present moment from something that occurred back there and or lineage curse, it's a tug of war of which personality, right, is going to be the dominant one. And the fear being that the more, let's just say, not your current present moment expression, something probably a little bit more negative is going to take over for good. That's what you don't want to see happen. So you have to know all of these aspects. What I'm saying is that, with people that you're around, or you may notice it yourself, that there could become a moment of confusion with high anxiety that starts this tug of war and starts you losing.
And it's a frequency clash as well. The frequency was so a big clash or different in that sequence. I didn't know what she was saying. It was like
Right,
and
because it was taking over. And believe me, again, so what we're talking in again with people that they were used for not the nicest of personalities. What we're saying, what is also being said is those tend to run people's lives in a lower vibrational frequency, slower and lower are usually the more ones like that, where you're normally could be higher. And so again, if there's a frequency gap that starts to so if we're in one frequency, a change begins to happen. Something of a lower frequency is trying to come in and take over the confusion, the lack of understanding. And so we try to talk about these things because this would have been a moment in time if you still had yourself together and you recognized it, that what we've talked about plenty of times, what the forest people talked about plenty of times, can you get yourself into that state of annulum? Because if you can break it from happening. So these are skills and things that people need to understand, because most everybody, I think we've been told everybody, but I'm just going to say most everybody, just in case there's one or two that hasn't, you're going to come back with your bolts not tighted all the way. It is like a guarantee. And so you need to look for these types of situations, understand what's going on more so that you can stay grounded as your I am present now without letting a rogue type personality try to inch its way over and or God forbid take over completely, because then it would just be utter destruction basically of your life. But you need to know these things, because again, our point in talking about these things is because we want to see people maintain control. We want to give them the skills to maintain control. We want to see people heal from this experience. You do not need to know everything that happened. And again, you have a multitude of different types of memories and or program memories that are going to come back with you. So you got enough of a broad brushstroke, most likely, to know that it just wasn't great. You don't need to know it all. I would highly advise you not. There's not very many people that are meant to remember from A to Z.
And we didn't all, and also I didn't realize that not all of us came back with all our bolts tightened either, sort of thing. And chances are that some of the ones that were back there are now some homeless person muttering on the street somewhere. That is not a joke. Can some of those be agents that watch neighborhoods? Yes. But in some cases, there's some crazy person that became this. And this is what I've been able to learn in this respect, that most of the time when this occurred, the person that came back was not the same one that left. Even some other insiders always say they didn't feel the same when they came back from all of this. When they started to get back memories, they noticed their personality was forever different because they were getting some things from there automatically. And some things were meant to be changed so that this information got out. Sometimes those souls were meant to tell this story so that this changed. Because if you get enough people that know this, you're going to change this on mass like this. You're going to change things like that. Like that experiment on the Washington, D.C. Mall that time where everybody just meditated and it dropped world crime. That kind of thing. I know for a fact that that's going to change. But is it going to change by you losing your crap? No. Excuse me.
And again, and there is something called maturity and growth. You're not the same at 20. You'll be a different person at 30. You'll be a different person at 40. So I'm saying that's just natural growth. So yes, you can bring back some of the experience and start to remember. And maybe you weren't, maybe you're saying, I'm not the same person that I was when I was 12 or 14 or 18 when I went in. But guess what? You wouldn't be the same person if you were just naturally that person. You grow from your experiences, you do change. The goal is overarching though. Do you know yourself to know to say who you are, to know what you're not? Meaning, I'm a loving, caring person. Okay, I do care about people. I do want highest good. I do believe it. People should be able to have their experiences, whatever it is. I can choose not to have anything to do with them because they're having one I don't care for. But people are allowed to have that. And are you congruent with who you say you are? What we're talking about again with I'm not the same person is you are now no longer congruent with who you say you are. Make sure you understand that. There is normal growth and maturity, but are you congruent with that?
And the mind control that's currently out there, even if you weren't in one of those programs, this rule still applies. Where how far off the who you are mark or I am presence mark are they drifting you?
Right.
No.
And we could go at this now ad nauseum. Chris could give you 50,000 more stories, but
And I could.
He could, but we're going to now shift
and
bring in somebody else.
And for the not hearing yourself right, there was an old Trek episode, I will go into pop culture, one time where Kirk was trying to actually see what somebody was trying to say to him, and it was garbled. It means there was a frequency interference there. That actually happened. Roddenberry wrote that same thing into the scripts once. So I will say that people get irritated when I do crap like that, but I was built in with a built-in library of what I look at. So I use it. And I'm sorry about me with my eye. I noticed as we were talking about this, my eye started severely acting up as we were talking. This was the shingle eye right here. So it started to immediately start to burn and do stuff when I could feel something coming from that direction. So we are going to get to this. So Isaac, I would assume that it is you talking. You would assume correctly, sir. Okay. All right. And also with my SSP memories, I was writing that book, SSP book that I was telling you about at the time. Before I got sick with COVID, my frequency dropped to such an extent because memory is frequency, frequency is memory. Remember what the Force people said. That applies to back there. What are you accessing? Whom did you serve back there? What did you serve? And what are you accessing and or needing to revoke that you are bringing forward? Like with the Dreamtime revocation, what are you agreeing to there? This applied to that area so as well. So I would highly recommend that you revoke any and all ties, bindings, contracts, and agreements made and programs agreed to by being in the secret space programs. Because by remembering that frequency, what are you accessing? And I'm not saying don't remember, but I'm just saying there's baggage in tow. And also basically cap that off with so mote it be, or it is forever so, or something of that nature. So Isaac, and he's like, so okay. And now he's doing that. Yeah, as he's coming. Now he's screwing around. Okay, come on. He's wondering if I'm done picking my nose yet. Okay, I'm not even. Okay, I don't even know what that means. Okay, let's see. It means when I asked him if he was done picking his nose yet, that means has he shut up yet? So basically, if he's sitting there just going, that usually means he's going on and on. So from this point forward, if I'm doing this, this usually means I'm telling him to stop talking. So instead of the, so make it creepy. So with this, everything that was said was absolutely correct. I was back there too. Me being on Lanulos and transmitting from that dimensional space and that frequency space. I can tell you, yes, I'm happy where I am, but I can tell you while being there, was it a picnic? Nope. Did anybody do anything heroic? On rare occasion. And did somebody do something smart? Was it like in SG-1 where they were doing things with a higher good? SG-1 played the secret space program light, just like your Space Force is. They're basically saying the things that they are going to do, they've already done. You've already been told this. And what you think is ahead of you is behind you, like with your past life memories. You are afraid of an apocalypse. You were during the Ragnarok, Martian Cydonia Plateau disaster, Lemuria, or Atlantis. One of those choices, or something like it in space. But with this, also, if you're remembering things from your secret space program over and over and over again, if you're having the same dream over and over again, that means your subconscious mind is trying to spit it out. And if your subconscious mind is trying to spit it out, this means you're supposed to access it. But I would highly recommend revoking the codes and the revoking of the emotions and or not the emotions, but the energies and frequencies not needed in the here and now, and keeping the things that serve the now moment. I'm well aware that all things happen in the now moment. I'm well aware of this. This is why you say anything from your secret space program tours of duty, and there were multiple tours. Then you again seal it off. It is forever so in all moments, all sessions, and expressions. But again, when you're accessing these things, and it's a wonderful thing that people talk about this, that these things have to start somewhere. Focus groups, things of this nature. But what does that entail? For every yin, there's a yang. So what is it that you are bringing in tow with you? What is it that is unneeded for the moment that you do not need to keep? If you are becoming a basket case because of this, is it worth it? Is it worth digging into, of course, your shadows? Yes, to fix things. Yes, that's what all people need to do, is learn why they are the way they are. But when that butts up against, then gaslighting you, and I'm using the term accurately, into or goading you into bringing something else back that could serve their interests, awakening even a sleeper personality that could serve their interests. What good is that? And I'm not saying erase what happened. That is the last thing. You do not want to be unburdened by what has been, but you do not want to be burdened by what has been either. So, in this instance, yes, the emotions must be dealt with. Yes, you must deal with what came before. Yes, you must reconcile histories, no matter where you live, but with other lifetimes. When you bring in things, of course, you're not supposed to do everything everywhere all at once. That's the Oversoul's job, unless you need to do it here. This applies to the SSP as well. You bring through what you need to bring through to find out what something is. Now, if you are a seer, and I fully agree with their assessment on this, if you see a secret space program, not. If the person has not asked you, do not hint at it, because they might want to go off on a hero's quest because of this. Just either try to stop it, thinking that, oh, I'm now quested with this task, or they'll try to take on that frequency and they'll access something that isn't theirs to begin with, and you're just picking up that their lineage might be part of it or something like that. Or they may have been a part of it. But if they have not asked, do not say. If they did not ask, do not tell. Little joke there. But with that said, this goes with past lives, as he said, with the important figures. Do not basically influence, say they were an important figure, unless they ask. And 9 times out of 10, no. You are just a dude, let's just say, or girl, depending on which way you're swinging. But in this, and or was, and or are. But with this, remember that remembering, again, he made a good analogy with the Centurion Void. You may be remembering the hero program. What came behind it? The brighter the picture, the darker the negative. And I'm not saying that with everything, but in this instance, when you start accessing this, chances are You have just accessed the other thing. And if you have an altar that they put there, boing, it awakens like an evil jack in the box. And it will creep up on you slowly, like a possession can, and ruin your life. Think of it as kind of a possession. It will creep up on you, and yes, are some things integrating that need to be integrated? Sometimes, yes. But just know that it can, like with his tech war example, it can cancel the other one out after a while. He's told you about the millimeters and centimeters technique. Where do you think it came from? Both good and bad, a yin and a yang. It can, like with curses, like with the whole elbow bumping thing he talks about, which is a thing. It changes things in your life as they pass that energy around that you are totally and completely unaware of, so slow and so gradual that certain events in your life change. This does the same thing. Little events in your life change. You get more targeting sometimes out of it. And yes, because you're targeting, sometimes does that mean, yeah, of course, you've put your head above the clouds, above the psionic dampening. Yes, that you're actually doing the right thing doing that. But also accessing these things to put out there as a truther. Yes, of course, it's the good, right thing. But just know there is a dualism in this, and there always has been. You're dealing with multiple timelines, frequencies, and even aphasias, like that Giorgio character that goes through the aphasia, has the wrong time frame. What do you think you do to yourself? You're going to turn into a freaking vegetable if you aren't careful with this. Basically, it's like a stroke. You are overloading the brain and the body cells with something from a different time frame and not doing it in millimeters and centimeters. Or you're allowing an alter to do things in millimeters and centimeters. And like in your Lower Decks episode where there were two of that same character and two couldn't occupy the same body, what do you think happens after a while? And what do you think that that causes? What do you think that that is? There can be only one, my friends. Your I am presence. And yes, do things change you as life goes on and you become a better person or a worse person because of it? Yes, of course. This is no different, but this is to the extreme of the extreme end of the extreme. There can be only one in you, or you're causing the very health problems that you're trying to figure out why they're happening. You don't know that this is creeping up on you, and paranormal activity can do this too, I might add. Channeling can, of course, if you get the wrong thing. And that can also alter your brain over time so you would understand things better. Interfacing is a wonderful way to expand language skills and everything. This is why he knows all the Draco cuss words now. But that's a good thing. That's exercising the telepathic side of your brain. There's nothing wrong with that. That's also like in your Stargate series where they imprinted memories. They're using some of the B2Ks using the same devices you saw in the series where the Ben Browder's character was sharing with his friend. Hit play, and you'll be able to hear my memories on here, or like a file. What do you think with those ones and zeros that they've collected from your genetic memory that they can do and imprint on other people? You could be getting the memories of another person, ghosts too. So that said, they can take the B2K and drop these things in like a file. Like you saw in your avatar with that trip they put in the brain, or Cyberpunk 2077 with the brain engram. Same as the Avatar, the Way of Water, same thing. Where do you think they get that idea from? The object is you have to know you. There are tons of false memories out there, and the hero program applies whether it's real or false. If you start knowing and believing one thing and it could be a false thing, the mouth will still apply the hero program to it. So I can go into questions.
So I think I want to ensure that everybody really understands the situation that can occur where there is an alter program that is triggered, and thus now the tug of war begins for which one of the personalities is going to be the grounded I am present.
Yes, because there can be only one, as I said before.
Right.
Which one is the grounded I am presence? Which one is the one that wins the trophy or the belt, the ladder match where they gather the belt at the top, the WWE match, that kind of thing. Not choreographed, by the way. This is a deadly match. This is more of a celebrity death match. Let's just put it that way, and not the claymation kind either. This is essentially basically a duel to the end. What personality trait is the I am presence?
So it's an interesting concept because again, if you were just really in a mental health place, they'd say you got a split personality.
Hmm.
They really would. They would say obviously,
That's influencing other parts so they can get money.
right, but I'm just gonna again, at the level that the bell curve of people in the world are,
Mhm.
there has been a classification called mental health. And in the DSM, I don't know if it's 6 now, 7 now, whatever it is, the DSM, the Book of Diagnosis,
Mhm.
they would consider this a split personality.
Yes, and they
just to
aren't
give
completely
perspective.
wrong,
Right.
but they do overbloat it so that they can make it look more horrendous. They do play act it too.
Right. So, I mean, I guess what I really want, because I'm saying in contrast to if back, being back in the SSP, you could have been used to create many alters that they take that shard and they literally put it in. It's
Uh-huh.
not a part of you anymore.
No, they put it in a different body and they need some genetic compatibility for that form, just like he's dreamt about female forms. Not all of those were correct, by the way. Some were a male form that he's just some memories warped.
Right.
But in one case, he was correct. And it didn't matter what the genetic form was that they dropped it into. That still applies as an expression over soul, absolutely correct. But does it mean that's you? That's in question.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you're responsible to reintegrate with it. It's
No,
separate now.
no.
It's this is now the oversoul's issue who decided to allow it to occur.
Yes, and also, yes, are there multiple expressions sometimes within the same timeline cluster you're in? This applies to that rule. The rules of the multiverse still apply to this, even though it was induced. It still applies because everything everywhere at once, infinite diversity and infinite combinations, this applies.
But my point is, if an oversoul did not want that little shard that was coming off to go into something to have it, it would blip it out.
Yes.
It just wouldn't exist anymore.
The oversoul wants this to be able to bring resolve in a different area.
Right.
And balance.
So it's been allowed, but it is no longer your responsibility to have anything to do with it. So,
sometimes.
Well, in a lot of cases, you must admit,
sometimes,
if you were that kind of birther, that they liked a type of personality, they liked the genetics, they liked the makeup of it, you could be used in a sense as a birther.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But if it is the reason you came in to bring this information out, your oversoul will then put you right in the thick of it in order to do so. This is that person's path when that happens.
Right, but that's not the bell curve of people.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I mean, I guess for me, when I have these conversations, yes, there are either ends of the bell curve, but the vast majority of times, you are not going to be responsible for something you don't even know exists.
Yes.
So you need to know that. But no, I get the fact that there are going to be people that are supposed to experience to be able to bring the information out, talk about it. And like today, for us to also talk about recognition so that you can heal and maintain your I am self.
And
so I wanted to I'm sorry to interrupt. I should say you interrupted me. So I wanted to bring that out for a moment because I think there is a lot of conversation regarding this thought process, which I'm assuming is a psyops that's out there that talks about everything must be reintegrated.
Yes, and also I do want to say if any beings don't recognize when a person is dream walking and maybe interrupts something somewhere or looks through their files or something, these are emerging decoding and coding processes that they know humans can't. That means they have either zero tolerance, they can't differentiate, or they are 100% full of shit and they are gaslighting. I just wanted to put that out. Those are those three options. And sometimes they're kind and don't understand. Some are ignorant too. That's a fourth option. But what was your question again?
Oh, I was making a statement. I was just trying to make the statement that, in fact, there is a psyops out there of this. You must reintegrate everything.
Yes,
it's not true.
And you, if it's basically the same as remember years ago, in 2017 when that solar eclipse came through, and people were encouraged to take in all the codes for everyone's benefit, and then they for their own benefit and for the whole and all that garbage. and they actually felt sick. And so when you guys created that revocation, brilliant, by the way, that you basically told people to revoke any old codes, energies, and frequencies and tones that they didn't need in the here and now and keep the ones they did. It got rid of the moon binary network garbage. Do you remember this? This applies to the area of SSP. Just supplant the eclipse information with the SSP, and there you go. Voila. You take
Exactly.
on what you need and discard what you do not.
But in a bigger picture reference, those parts of you that were blasted off as a shard, that were put into something else, the Oversoul's got it. Someone is watching out, and
Yes.
and it doesn't have
It
to
will be
you.
remembered.
It will be remembered. It will be reabsorbed. It will do whatever at the Oversoul level, not at your personal level. You were supposed to be concerned with the current, present. You
Unless this
avatar.
is why you're here, yes.
Well, I know, we're gonna move that aside, but for most people, it is because, again, the Oversoul is gonna handle it from their level. There may be a few things, again, that, and especially for some people, if it's their purpose to remember, but the vast majority do not need to worry about it. The Oversoul will. And you're not even gonna necessarily remember all the birthed pieces that were created, from you over there, let's say. So let it go is what I'm saying. For some people,
Yes.
you don't, if it's not interfering really, you don't need to worry about it and let it go. What I want to talk about again is, so that is a totally different subject matter than when they are about to send you back, from your service of whatever, that they put all these booby traps and all these other things into you because they're going to ensure that you come back without your bolts all screwed in correctly, to set aside when you may start to remember, or you may start to rise in frequency and grow in frequency. The booby traps are set so that things will emerge, because the goal is, anyway, they do not want you to be better than them, and they made you better than them over there.
And they will think by you getting all this back, you're somehow better than them, even though there's a lot of people that don't care about being better than someone else. They do, because they have tiny penises.
Exactly.
So they are overcompensating. So they stick on their high horse in Antarctica and in Mars because they have lack of nut sacks.
Right.
So and their penises are about this big.
So
yeah.
they have basically, what they have done to, I don't know, and this is where you can tell me, is it to everyone or is it to a select few, where they have literally implanted within you a trigger point for an alter personality to start to emerge.
Specific people that were in specific programs. Everybody is being targeted because of the dampening, or the dumbing, or the psionic dampening, and those that rise above it get targeted. But the alter thing themselves, other than people creating alters in their own traumatic situations that have nothing to do with the SSP, that's still a concept they call dissociative personality disorder, but it's the same thing. Past lives fall under this as well. Your X-Files brought this up with a past life, where a little girl was actually the incarnation of somebody who was murdered, and he didn't get to fulfill something, or there was an injustice, ghost form, but it was still incarnated. That was resolved, girl moves on. This is the same with certain memories as well. SSP still falls under this category. If it's something you need to resolve, you move on like that lifetime. But is there an alter, a special alter involved, or set of them involved, that are triggered by hitting certain memory frequencies? Memories, frequencies, memory. So when you hit a memory, you've hit a frequency like hitting a note on a piano, ding, or plucking a string on a violin or a guitar. Once they hear boom, that alter activates. It's a sound frequency. This is why he heard in his SSP memories, whenever they wanted to mind control people, they flipped on an implant somewhere on a wall, somewhere, and it went, and it actually mind controlled. He remembers a Star Trek reference where your Data had this in his brain, where he could control entities that were on a ship and controlled them. This is a sound tone they were showing in that episode that actually exists in reality. It's a particular sound pulse that some people hear in their ears, and they think that it is some kind of high frequency angelic thing. No, it is part of the binary network, and it's a particular mind control tone that they happen to be hearing. If you have an alter and you hear this, Hello awakens the altar. Now a duel to the death. There can be only one. This is how this operates.
So we need to talk about controlling this type of situation. Now, one of them, again, like we were saying earlier, is that when that particular altar, let's just say, tries to establish, superiority, it's usually triggered by some sort of stress, some sort of anger, some sort of frustration,
Yes,
that it
a
begins.
trauma bond.
Right, that it actually then begins its journey. And then it's like, I like to think it's kind of like shingles. It can be suppressed,
Shingles doesn't care.
really, and it doesn't care, but it can be suppressed. And then it reemerges, and then suppressed, and then reemerges, and then suppressed.
This is symbolic for the energy frequency being suppressed and coming back, suppressed and coming back. It's that process where it's a tug of war, it's a duel to the death, pistols at dawn kind of thing, except with swords that are dull.
Right. And so
Or a spoon.
It's an interesting dynamic because there are certain principles that if you feel you may be one of these people that are having that struggle, there are certain principles in your life that you need to start living by. You must understand this so that you can keep it suppressed. And because I'm saying that because, we have never once been told that it will be anything other than a suppression. We've never been told that it can be clipped away.
Now, this is where I will differ. Now, if something needs to be integrated, fine. But if it's an altar that you've gotten rid of, let's just say, if there's memories that will dislodge from that. If you were meant to pop that suppression balloon or fart that thing inside your brain, yes, you can do this safely. If you get rid of that altar, certain things will start to rebalance and you'll get back what is actually needed. It doesn't, or you may not. Again, depending on your energy frequency, you won't have that intense, how can I put it, that particular alternate personality trait. But if you, if suppression isn't always a good thing because it resuppresses it, and then the problem wheel will just come back around again. You have to reconcile it to the point where you do the opposite traits that the altar wants, and eventually that dies. It's like that old adage, there's two wolves inside of a man's heart. Well, which one wins? The one you feed.
Okay, so this is really important to talk about because this now differs from something that was said to us before, which again, we're open to a new growth of information. I think I know why it was said how it was said before.
Which information?
That, that this altar, the goal is to manage it by suppression.
Yes, that is true most of the time. What I am referring to is you don't feed it. Then as it's how can I say, as it's suppressing, it then fades into the background. It then fades into this. With this, the subconscious always has to be rebalanced. So what was said before wasn't wrong. You're gaining more understanding.
Right.
You have to do the opposite trait of what that particular trait, the particular traits of that altar is. If you do not feed it, of course, there's certain things, certain tendencies that will resuppress. You may not get all of them, but certain things will be integrated, balanced, and fade into that of the Oversoul's library.
Right.
At that point. So it is I suppose you can say it's a form of suppressing it back, keeping that bottle corked, but if it truly must open, it must be done in a balanced way, and you cannot give in to what that other altar wants you to turn into.
So this is the important part of the conversation. Knowing yourself to know what the altar is. And so again, we've said it for, since we've started talking, you have to know who you are to know what you are not. And again, people will say, but that was you. And I'm going to say, that wasn't you, current present you. That was an alteration to current present moment you, that things want you to believe that that is you, but who are you?
And even the you over there didn't always remember the you here and saw the you here as a shadow or shade too. So that's another thing at the end of the entangled cord. Some insiders are saying that some beings over there accessed who they really were here
Right,
and saw on the other end of the looking glass. See,
right.
and that's important. That's happened multiple times, not just in your Tony Rodriguez story. This happened multiple times and has happened, just like he accessed this version over there a couple of times and pulled on this version. Same as going here. It goes both ways. It's a yin and a yang. But again, the altar, if you feel this creeping up, you do not give it the time of day unless it's an important thing that you are supposed to learn from this and also an important thing that you're supposed to walk through. I'm not saying ignore all things. If you have a door that's locked in your subconscious, open this up and see what the boogeyman is on the other side. I'm all for this. It does not mean you become that boogeyman.
But right now, with people having problems understanding who they are and what is them and what isn't them, I think I ask this question, I think your perspective. It seems to me that people truly need to practice in times of stress, getting themselves into that analem state. I used to call it looking at something from the 70,000 foot level, where you're in a neutral state of being. You're not reacting, you're observing, because the activation of this particular altar is all going to be about emotion. It is truly triggered, to come into being in some sort of an emotional, be it anger, fear, whatever it is, it comes on within that. So you have to learn to be able to quickly move yourself into a state of, I don't know, maybe some people will say get into that meditation place. For me, I say get to that 70,000 foot high level, looking into it. I do love the forest people calling it the analem state. So you must be able to truly move yourself in that state in times of stress and anxiety, because that's when it begins to try and take over. Would you agree to that, or would like to expand on that?
Yes, when you get outside of that, out of that Hanhalim state, you hit a chaos state that they call Altsum. It's hard for the human brain to comprehend this particular word. Dear Force person before said the word closer to that state in a previous recording done today. That means chaos in their language. The reason they don't like that word uttered whole lot is because, like with all their spell words, calm, alxcom means chaos. Then you notice it's harder to say than so just know with every word carries a frequency: love, hate, sadness, depression, happiness, joy. All of these things carry a frequency. Now, I'm not saying be in joy all the time or being hate and anger all the time. No, balance. But these are things that must be rectified. What were your other comments?
No, that was the biggest one, because again, I wanted to have this conversation as a point of how do we help people learn to be able to control and heal in a sense from this. I think this conversation is this big aspect to it. And again, we feel that there are certain people that this has absolutely come back with them. And so, we've avoided a lot of conversation because we want to bring in a healing conversation of how to help people cope with this. And one of the most important things is said in general, but is specifically here, is the importance of being able to control yourself and your energies enough and pull yourself into that analem state, because it will not allow the other thing to take over in that calm state. And I think, it's one of those things, because really that's the point of all this. So I just was wondering if you had any other aspects of what we're trying to say to help people, what skills they need to work on to control this.
Yes, so the skills you need to work on are knowing, again, your own mind and your own thoughts. If things are being forced into your head, forced, then that means that may not be you. But if you feel like he likes to say the dentist cotton on the brain, not the pressure, like the forest people say, or pressure from other energies. This will feel like cotton because it's coming from a different, say, version of yourself or something of that nature that the brain is trying to rectify it. So the alter is trying to wrap it up in a bow, kind of thing. Don't look at this. Don't look at this. Then at that point you must, but then know that once you hit that frequency, you take it to the limit and you reintegrate. But if you've hit this and all you're supposed to take from it is just this little amount, don't think that you have to keep going with it unless unless the intuition is now guiding you to this information for a reason, or the soul or oversoul is guiding you to this information for a reason. But don't think that you absolutely must look into this like it's some kind of what is the word? Some kind of fad or something cool, like what a fad usually is. Yes, can certain aspects, of course, of a Star Trek world, absolutely, that would be absolutely awesome that would open up and all these treaties would integrate the Earth in, and you guys would be singing Kumbaya with us around a campfire. Yes, we want this very badly. Does this mean we want you to lose your mind in the process? No. We want your mind intact because, well, just because we don't want you to go insane from this. Because just because you went insane or were megalomaniacal there does not mean you need that here.
Right. And so understand there was there, you need to almost think of it as a completely different timeline that you're just
In some cases it
remembering.
was.
Right. And you're remembering that just like you may pick up on others, but that is not your current present moment experience going on now. You need to focus on the current present moment. And then how do you utilize that information to advocate for certain things that want to be seen and understood here, affecting us current present moment. And
Yes.
so, in all honesty, if all you're doing is storytelling and all you're doing is talking that this was my experience and that is, and this is that, but you're not doing anything to say, what's the importance of the memory and what am I now trying to do to move this forward for a greater understanding of her healing, then why are you doing it?
Yes, if it's for the cause to bring and forward the information, yes. But if you're doing it just for entertainment value and you're doing it for, just some personal heroic quest, then don't bother. Now, if you are doing something that's slightly for show to get a point across for that good purpose, then absolutely you're fine.
Right. But you need to have the whole conversation.
You have to have the whole
and not
conversation.
just stuck in the story mode
And
of your personal experience.
Yes, not stuck in the story mode and the hero's quest in that way. Now, are there good hero's quests in the ancient past that took place that actually apply now? Yeah, there's a difference. But if you're stuck in actual just storytelling mode, no. Now, if you're telling a story and you want to integrate it into a movie script or TV show and do like a whole Star Trek-y thing with it, absolutely wonderful, great. Or like Resident Alien or something like that, great.
Because again, some of these stories need to make it to film to
Yes,
talk
they do.
more about the galactic history of our existence, to talk about some of these programs and the realities of it, to put it into, in general, the larger populace's understanding so that they can be prepared to accept that this stuff was real. It does need to happen. That actually is how these things are done over, the last 150 years, how they've helped to prepare people.
Mhm.
So it needs to. And again, part of this as well is, do you want them to, the other guys want them to only tell their fictional historic version of it? And I say fictional, as that is exactly what will be done. Or is there kind of a demand that the truth of it all really be allowed to come out?
Yes.
And that will actually serve humanity better than this fictionalized, sanitized version that they're going to attempt to do.
And if you want that Star Trek world, and I fully endorse this, you have to make it so. Pun included. You have to do this. It's just not going to be handed to you. You truly want this. You have to make it happen. This is not something you can sit on your bum unless you're co-creating. You're not sitting on your bum then. You're actually doing it in a magical, energetic way. That's work still. either through a warrior work, advocate type of work, or something that in that area, legally and or warrioristic and or also magical. It's all the same. It's all warrior in that respect. You're focusing, you're co-creating, you're actually more of a truther warrior at that point. Even if you're just passively doing things, you're changing the energies, you're still doing it. I want to put that out there. Now, if you're not doing anything, you have to ask yourself why. Could this be an alter stagnating you, or could this be the mouth and or V2K stagnating you? You have to ask that as well.
You do need to ask that. You absolutely, because there is a good chance that is going on for some people who are stuck just in story time, although some of them are also just shills. And they're intentionally
Yeah,
doing
the
this.
"we are the champions" routine. Yes, shills be shilling. We came up with that phrase, and that is a very marketable one as well as a hashtag. So remember this, everybody. Shills be shilling is actually what is going on. That's part of the narrative.
Right, exactly. So I don't want to overwhelm people with these conversations. Like I said, I'm happy to be able to share that we've been able to share some perspective and or steps for healing and gaining control, which is really needs to happen. So I hope a lot of this is shared a lot. I hope a lot of people, listen to this and everything, because the goal is how do we move forward to co-create what is better for humanity versus stuck in a rolling around chasing your tail and getting nowhere. And so we want to move this forward, help people heal and gain control. So anything for this show, anything else you'd like to say?
Yes, I do believe that it was said perfectly in this episode. Yes, this did need to take place through these words. Then there is frequency, and frequency is memory. Yes, memory is frequency. Yes, but through this also then transmits that frequency by then which people then cut through the psyops crap too, by saying these things. That whole two or more walk in my name, minus the whole Jesus reference, you know what I'm saying. Co-creative, lighting the fires of co-creation in one area and appears in others. That's the whole butterfly effect. If there's nothing else, I will detach at this time. So thank you. All right. So yeah, that's absolutely correct. By the time you see this episode, it'll be post-conference.
And just in case you didn't say, we recorded this on the 29th of June.
The 29th of June and this
2025.
2025. So yeah, this will be aired post-conference. Just so a few people are curious. So did you have anything else to add, Kevin?
No, I hope we shared some things and really hope there's a lot of takeaway from this to help people, like I said, understand better, feel better, learn how to gain control, better, for their sake and for the sake, for disclosure and the movement in general.
Yes, so thank everybody for watching this episode today. This even though this was slightly impromptu, it really wasn't. It's been more building towards this topic anyway. Please comment below, and I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye bye now.